Minister in the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs.
Madam President, Chambermaids of the Senate, Trinidad and Tobago, a pleasant good afternoon. Madam President, I'm grateful for the opportunity to contribute to this debate before this most honorable chamber. I want to firstly congratulate Senator Vieira for moving this said motion in the interest of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam President, Senator Vieira and my colleagues on the government bench have all spoken in great and pertinent details on the roles, functions, deficiencies of service commissions, the enshrined rights of said commissions, and the need for constitutional reform. So to avoid unnecessary repetition, I will adopt the submissions of my colleagues on the government bench and see how best I can add to what has already been effectively narrated by my colleagues. Madam President, I firstly want to address a comment that was made by Senator Mark during his contribution. Senator Mark spoke of the fact that the PNM wanted control over the hiring and firing of people. He spoke he also made reference to a report that was done by Mr. Dumas. What I have here that I want to place in the public domain, Madam President, is an article that was dated Thursday, May 23rd, 2013. And it was also an article that was done by Mr. Dumas. And in this article, he attempted to critique the performance of the public service and service commissions in particular. In this particular article, what Mr. Dumas focused on were the structural and technical inefficiencies that existed within the service commissions. What Mr. Dumas did, and I will quote from the article, another drawback Dumas added was the absence of a computerized system recording data on public servants in the public service. Now, why I make reference, this is an article by Mr. Dumas in 2013, where he recognized that in the public service there was an integral deficiency as it related to record keeping and a computerized system. If we, for example, in 2020, Madam President, if we look at PNM policies and our government's policies relative to transforming our society and transforming the way in which and the ease of doing business in this country, we would see that digitization is crucial. Digitization is a crucial part of our government policies. And this is very important for us to recognize that the PNM government is bent on improving the structures and bent on improving the system of doing business within our public service. Now, in this particular article by Mr. Dumas, he also spoke on the Teaching Service Commission. Dumas asked how often principals sent report for wrongdoings to the Ministry of Education. How often and what rapidity does the permanent secretary send his or her report to the Teaching Service Commission? And as I said, this is a 2013 report, Guardian newspaper report. And in this report, again, what it speaks to is structural deficiencies that exist. It's not a PNM problem in the public service. They are just simply structural deficiencies that, of course, needs to be addressed. Madam President, the four public service commissions created by Chapter 7, Part 3 and Chapter 9, Part 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, as we are aware, and all of my colleagues have alluded to, are the Public Service Commission, the Police Service Commission, the Teaching Service Commission, and the Judicial and Legal Service Commission. Madam President, the Judicial Committee, in a Privy Council case of Thomas versus the Attorney General, as alluded to by Senator Hazel Thompson Ahi, of course, spoke and tried to explain what was the purpose of these commissions. The ratio decidendi of this case, Madam President, indicated the whole purpose of the public services is to insulate members of the civil service, the teaching service, the police service in Trinidad and Tobago from political influence exercised directly upon them by the government of the day. Now, Madam President, in the motion before us, Senator Vieira has called on the government to review the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago and the enshrined service commissions and to table to this Parliament within a reasonable time a clear plan for the update of the Constitution and reform of the said commissions. To answer the Honorable Senator's motion, the place to start will be to examine, of course, the deficiencies that exist within these commissions. When I did my examination of these service commissions, it was clear to me that there were two significant categories of deficiencies that existed within the public service. And because these two categories of deficiencies are very, very different, Madam President, I submit that the deficiencies plaguing the public service could not, and these service commissions could not be cured by simple constitutional reform alone. As previously alluded to, the deficiencies plaguing the commissions fall square in two categories. What are these categories? The first category, in my interpretation of the problems plaguing the service commissions, Madam President, it is squarely a structural issue, and it relates to the human resource management, which can only be cured by planned policies and initiatives within the commission, of course, within the commission itself, and of course, with the assistance of any government of the day, to bring institutional strengthening and internal reforms within the said constitution. Madam President, policies to improve and in some instances change the culture within the constitution, within the commissions are crucial. The second category of deficiencies that in my analysis of these service commissions are those categories that simply comes from the challenges which arise from the enshrined provisions in our constitution as it relates to service commissions. And of course, this second category of deficiencies can only be cured by constitutional reform. Madam President, what I will attempt to do now is to separately examine the non-constitutional deficiencies and the constitutional deficiencies that these service commissions face, and then attempt to bring to this chamber what the government has done and intends to do to bring reformation that Senator Vieira and many of my colleagues and many of my chamber mates recognize as crucial for the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to use the example of the Public Service Commission. For example, in the Public Service Commission, well, we understand that Section 120 of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago speaks to the creation of the public service. Now, in 2006, there was a further delegation of the powers of this said commission, or of the commission, to permanent secretaries, heads of departments, via the Public Service Commission Delegation of Powers Amendment Order 2006, which was published in the legal notice number 105 of 2006. Madam President, as a result of the constitutional provisions, the Parliament appointed at that time members to form a joint select committee on local authorities, service commissions, and statutory authorities, including the THA. Now, during the third session, 2017 to 2018, of the 11th Parliament, this said JSC published its 7th report and an inquiry into the efficiency and the effectiveness of the Public Service Commission, where they highlighted many problems facing the public service. So now, the problems that were identified, particularly in this report, spoke to structural problems that can only be cured by strengthening, institutional and internal strengthening. Now, subsequent to this report, the question is, and the question that Trinidad and Tobago would want answered, is upon the receipt of this report, what exactly did the government of the day do? Now, the Ministry of Public Administration, the Office of the Prime Minister, did prior to this JSC, engage and participated in conversation with the Public Service and the Joint Select Committee. There were many recommendations by the GSC which came out of this conversation. For example, many of the recommendations, so there were and these recommendations, Madam President, of course, again, and I reiterate, recommended that to improve the public service and to improve these service commissions, internal strengthening was required. Now, one of the deficiencies that the GSC alluded to in this said report was something as simple as poor information technology systems that existed in the public service. Now, we can report as a government that to rectify the antiquated IT system subsequent to that report, iGovTT began working with the Public Service Commission to retain suitable consultant vendors for the provision and design and implementation of an electronic document management based system. So the point that I'm making, I'm placing in the public domain, is that our government simply does not sit by when recommendations are made. Clearly, and I think I've mentioned this in my maiden speech, we do not have a magic wand, and certainly we cannot solve all of the problems. But certainly when problems are brought to us as a government with the resources and the expertise we do have, we do make a concerted attempt to bring some sort of remedy. So for example, this point that I've made relative to some of the recommendations that came out of this said GSE, where the government took these steps to work and try to better and improve the IT solutions, is but one example of many things that our government has done and continues to do. And then, of course, my colleague minister, Senator Alison West, would have spoken about digitization. Digitization, and it's crucial to our government's plan. This too, of course, we look at as a system of internal strengthening our public service. Now, Madam President, another recommendation that came out of that said GSC to cure the deficiencies in the public service was an issue relative to drafting of policy. It was stated that the Public Service Commission should ensure that rigorous research data analysis is conducted prior to the implementation of any new policy framework. So the GSC also suggested, and in their conversation with the government and in their conversation with the public service, recommended that before we are to apply any policy to revamp or to renew our public service, that policy, of course, must be based on data. It must be based on sound research, sound methodology. It was suggested that the Commission should partner with the academic and research institutions, which can result in increased networking and expert guidance for policies. The question now, based on this recommendation, what did the government of Trinidad and Tobago do? As a result, what did we do? I would like to place in the public domain, since the 7th of January 2016, by Cabinet Minute number 26, the government appointed a task force to support the implementation of a National Statistics Institution of Trinidad and Tobago, in recognition of the necessity to have an independent body charged with the responsibility of the collation of data, recognizing that this data is crucial to the formation of national policies. This government has always recognized the need to create an autonomous agency to facilitate informed decision-making through the timely provision of a quality, relevant, user-oriented, and dynamic statistical service, coordinating statistical activities and promoting the adherence of statistical standards. The government, Madam President, spoke to these policies and the need for a statistical agency in Trinidad and Tobago. The public sector reform agenda, Madam President, also formed part of our government's Vision 2030. It was also found in the PNM's 2015 manifesto, and even in our 2020 manifesto, the PNM government would have spoken to a great extent about internal strengthening of our public service sector. Now, what I can report, Madam President, allow me the opportunity now. So that was relative to the Public Service Commission. I want to also turn to another service commission, which is the Judicial and Legal Service Commission, and look at what were some of the deficiencies that existed in this particular commission, and of course attempt to explain and put into the public domain what the government of Trinidad and Tobago has since done. This commission is an executive body established under Section 110 of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. This is the JLSC I speak of. The JLSC had agreed to the establishment of selection panels to assist in their recruitment. So the JLSC, I'm pleased to say, at least based on my research, they have taken prudent steps to improve internally and strengthen the operations internally as per how their commission operates. Now, however, in 2017, In an annual report of the GLSC, it was stated that there was an inordinate delay in classifying offices and or providing job specifications for some offices and positions that existed. Now, what the GLSC said is that...
Minister, you have 5 more minutes.
Yes, yes, Madam President. Now, what the GLSC identified is that sometimes it's difficult for they to fill vacancies. Sometimes it's difficult for they to advertise positions if data does not come to them. For example, from heads of departments or from permanent secretaries. So the GLSC clearly would have identified that, okay, we have taken steps to do some sort of introspection. We have taken steps to do some internal strengthening. But the problems that we face as a commission is sometimes it's over and beyond us. And what we will certainly need is the assistance of the public servants. And they being on board and willing to take that level of social responsibility for how the public service as a whole is able to operate. Madam President, in the interest of, I understand time is of the essence, but one, I would quickly look at the constitutional deficiencies that exist and that will require, of course, probably a constitutional amendment. Madam President, I wish to put into the public space Section 54 of the Constitution. This particular section, Madam President, it speaks particularly to majorities required when certain constitutional amendments are to be had. Now, Section 54(1) in particular, it states it gives the government and a parliament the opportunity to be able to bring constitutional reform. But Section 54(1) subsection 2 speaks to sections of the Constitution that will require a 2/3 majority. Madam President, if we look at Section 120, 121, Section 122, 22A, 23, and the list goes on, all of these sections of the Constitution speaks particularly to service commissions. And 3/4, if not most of these, to bring forward most of these amendments, will require a 2/3 majority if we consider the point of proportionality. Now, why I'm stating this is because while, yes, in principle, we all understand the necessity to bring, at times, to bring forward severe constitutional reform, this will require the cooperation of this entire parliament, both in the lower house and both in the upper house. So we can speak of constitutional reform. We can speak of the need to bring amendments to certain parts of our constitution as it relates to service commissions and improving the functions of service commission. But if we go to Section 54, on that point of proportionality, it is clear to us that we can only do that if as a country, if as a parliament, we all, despite our political differences, we recognize that there comes a time that we must work as one body in order, of course, to bring forward necessary constitutional changes that can only benefit all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam President, thank you very much for the opportunity.